Welcome to the Amazing Greats podcast, where we have a unique opportunity to talk with people you know from movies, music, sports, books, or politics. It's a real and raw conversation about their life, their career, and how faith has played a role in it. No preaching or teaching, and no church experience is required. Today, join your host, a radio veteran for over 30 years from Seattle. Here's Ric Hansen. Buckle up, and here we go.
Well, thank you, Joe Michaels. It's Ric Hansen here with another Amazing Greats podcast. And I am here with this is going to be a wild and fun episode, because when you have a comedian who is also maybe the happiest guy in the world, all on one screen, ready to chat with us, you can today. And his name is Michael Pritchard. Welcome, Michael. How are you?
Thank you, Rick, very much. I am terrific. I'm having a great week and enjoying life and kind of semi-retirement, but I can never retire from all the joy I have working with children.
All right. So let me do, just so everybody kind of is up to speed on who you are and what you're all about. It's a little bit of your background. I kind of wrote this thing up so that we could condense it all, but at the same time, make sure people have a pretty clear picture of who you are. So You're a comedian, you're a voice talent, you're an actor, a counselor, a motivator, and a sought-after speaker. And as a stand-up comic, you shared the stage with known comedians such as Robin Williams and Jerry Seinfeld and Dana Carvey and Whoopi Goldberg and many more. And you did a fabulous guest appearance on an Emmy Award-winning episode of Taxi, which I watched, and it was hilarious. You've also appeared with Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show. Michael has performed at some of the biggest clubs around, at Caesars, the Comedy Store, Universal Amphitheater, and has opened for musical artists like Diana Ross, The Grateful Dead, Kenny Rogers, Michael McDonald, Boz Scaggs. And in addition to all that, he's a voice talent and has done some work for Star Wars episodes and for Sesame Street. Michael's been inspiring and entertaining literally hundreds of thousands with his PBS educational series, his featured Lessons from the Heart for George Lucas's Edutopia Educational Foundation, plus thousands of live performances at schools and for corporate employees, healthcare workers, government and state workers. And boy, this is a great bio, right? He's also been awarded. It is. This is probably going to make you blush, isn't it, Michael?
It is making me blush.
He's also been awarded the President's Volunteer Action Award, the Rotary International Toastmasters International Speakers Outstanding Performance Award. He's got the key to the city of San Francisco. And as a result of all of his work, Michael Pritchard has been featured on CNN, The Today Show, The Tonight Show, CBS Sunday Morning, Time Magazine, and People Magazine. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Michael Pritchard.
Wow. Man, that was, I was like, wow.
That's all you, man.
You know, I don't know whether to thank you for making me look so old for all the work, or grateful to anybody even remembering it.
Well, tell me, have you been a funny guy your whole life? Even as a kid, were you
all my life
comedian? All
my life, I've just had fun with people. Starting from the time I was a little kid, I used to amuse my parents greatly. My father was an Army officer. My mother was a school teacher. And I was that kid that was always at the table making jokes, having fun, laughing. And my father and mother enjoyed me. I was their baby. And so I had watched the minefield the other ones had gone through. The other three older brothers had gone through. And I learned to just keep my parents happy by making them laugh. And it was a great gift.
It is nice being the youngest. I was also the youngest, and you're right.
Yes.
You learn a lot of lessons from the mistakes your siblings did before you.
Yeah, you just as he looks up to his brothers and sisters, looking.
Sorry.
No, you're not. No, go ahead.
So now, tell me, just so we kind of lay a picture of your faith story too. Where were you at as a young person in your relationship with God? Did you have an early kind of connection with your faith?
Rick, from the time I was a little kid, I was empathic, which was, I always felt, a fruit of the Holy Spirit as I look back at it. To be joyful and to also be empathetic to people. It's almost intuitive or psychic. You tune in more to their human emotions and wellness than you do anything else in the room.
Yeah.
And when you're on that kind of what you would call a frequency, you're filled with how to make people's lives better. And that keeps you awake consciously to what we should be here to do, to help our fellow human being in suffering or sadness or sorrow or joy or disconnection. So I think that's from the earliest time I was a kid. I remember those moments.
Well, tell me, let's get started in your career path. You were a stand-up comic, and you were an improv guy. You did competition. You actually won the San Francisco competition up against notables like Robin Williams.
There was some, but here's the thing, Rick. My comedy career was accidental.
Oh, was it really? Okay. Yeah. I want to hear about this accident.
Well, it's obviously it's God guided. God guides you to where you're going to be doing the most good. I was working at juvenile hall and the kid said, you should go down because you're so funny. You should go down to the Holy City Zoo. And the Holy City Zoo was the playground for all of us. It's where we all started out. And it was a wonderful place filled with joy and laughter and fun. And comedians like Robin Williams, Whoopi Goldberg, Danny Glover would come in and do improv. People that were doing theater and laughter there. And that's the Holy City Zoo. And I started there and went on after I drew crowds to just find that show business was hard. It was a hard thing to watch because people were awfully tough on each other.
Ah, really? Okay. Yep.
And it was, it was the comedy competition. And the idea is to try to be a kind person in a world that doesn't usually find kind anything but weak. Right?
Yeah.
And so I loved the people that I worked with. I loved the people that I worked around. And I was happy doing stand-up, making thousands of people laugh at any given time. But I could feel a power, a presence in me to help me do my work when I was up there being funny, organizing my thoughts, because I have totally ADD. I'm a totally ADD guy, right?
And it worked to your advantage. Yeah.
Well, that's all okay until you go, look, butterfly, and right in the middle. So,
yeah.
So I used it as an advantage. I knew that it made me a happy heart.
Yeah. So you kind of developed a personal relationship with Robin Williams in the earlier days.
Robin and I were friends. He was a wonderful man, a kind and thoughtful guy, good, decent, and holy in many ways. And he, like all comedians, we have flaws, idiosyncrasies, foibles. And what was powerful for me was to watch Robin Williams work with acting, theater, music, dance, any of those, and draw characters out and laughs from people in a most amazing way. He was such a great spirit.
Yeah. And along the way, he ran into depression issues and actual mental health issues along the way that we as viewers never really knew about that.
I think that people in our world, in entertainment, there's so many folks that vacillate between the highs and lows of stages and cameras and action, that it's sometimes really important to stay engaged with the artists in a loving way, to let them know they're not alone, they're not isolated. And that's what it was with Robin. Was once he was facing a disease called Lewy body dementia, it was impossible for him to explain it at times. So those on the most empathic frequency would see this, that he was suffering, and try and do everything we could to help him.
And he
what
called
an
upon
amazing-
you a few times along the way he called upon you to lighten his spirits and to bring him out of his funk, right?
I think that when I took him to play basketball with adult developmentally delayed seniors, and I watched him do that, and it was remarkable to see the lift. And he said to me, Mike, why do I feel so good here? Why do I feel so right here? And I go, everywhere else in the world, Robin, you're on give. And here, with all these folks, you're on receive.
Mm-hmm.
Giving love. And it's not like show business or Hollywood. This is real people loving you for you coming to play basketball with them and showing your tenderheartedness. And he was so great. And he literally had so much joy in him as he was leaving. He was hugging everybody, and it was great to watch him really, and truthfully, I believe this word, relax. Into trying to be somebody, and instead just having fun with his family. His wife and two stepsons, Peter and Casey, were there. It was remarkable. We played, we had fun, and I learned from Robin that he could change. He could get wiser and more well for himself and his own sake. And it was great.
Yeah.
For the process of being a counselor.
I loved when you mentioned to me that you'd been on Taxi, and of course, for those of us old enough, Taxi was a staple on television. Everybody watched Taxi. It was huge, and you were on one of the Emmy Award-winning episodes of that. And as it were, you played the role of a gay gentleman dancing with Judd Hirsch. How did all that come about?
I had to learn. We had a great. Jeff Kutash was the choreographer, and he came in and staged everything. And he was a brilliant guy and a dance teacher. And we had fun, and Judd was incredible. And it was remarkable to hear the laughter from the crowd. They were so happy and engaged in listening to the laughter. And it was one of the first times anything like that had been on television, 1980.
Yeah, I know. That was groundbreaking at that time, for sure. Yes. So out of comedy, you found some deeper meaning and purpose from your ability, your gift to make people laugh and to bring joy into their lives. And that transition, explain how that all worked with you. You got out of the limelight of, on stage comedian. Right. But then you went on to another stage and into a different limelight, and that was helping people. So how did all that happen?
Well, if anybody tells you that the corporate people and the philanthropic people in America aren't really great and terrific and true, they're wrong. I have worked with so many corporations, so many good people who have funded my work and helped me, not just on PBS, but internationally. And just to know that philanthropically, you can go out there and find business people that know the real successes in America aren't the people that love money and use people. They're the people that love people and use money.
Very interesting.
And so for all of us, for me, I just started working on PBS, doing series for children to help them with the choices that they make. First one was called Power of Choice. Then You Can Choose, Big Changes, Big Choices. And they were all, sponsored by corporations and people that were interested in helping us further the work on PBS and in life.
And that translated then to some activity in schools. You did assemblies for young people.
I did hundreds and hundreds of assemblies, Rick, all over America, in places that some people wouldn't want to go, but I found fascinatingly warm. And when you meet the children in an Inupiaq village in Alaska, and you get to bring them joy and laughter, God has seen you to some place where you can use your skills and talent And it doesn't have to be on television. It can just be a real life performance for lonely kids in an isolated area of the world that love to laugh. And that's when you know the Holy Spirit's with you.
I love that. So the thing that struck me is how you were able to bridge the gap between here you were an adult and you're in a room full of middle schoolers who typically are pretty hard to break through to. But I saw some of the videos, and I mean, they were laughing and they were walking right along your comedic path. And how did you figure out how to go about reaching them as an adult?
Emotional intelligence factor is something that we're going to be teaching for years. They now call it social emotional learning. Across America and everywhere, we're starting to realize our leaders have to be more emotionally intelligent, more empathic, more in tune, more on frequency, more into the consciousness of what's going to make the world better and more wise in a Solomonic wisdom type way. And that, for me, has always been prayer and helping people find prayer. And for me, when I was literally born again, I was with charismatic people and they prayed over me, and I was a new me, and started to live to take care of children's lives and people's lives. And everything was guided along the way by the angels, I believe, because I found myself in places and I would say, what am I doing here? What could possibly have brought me here to this moment? But that might be in an Inupiaq village that still wails. It might be in an amazing Mohawk Nation tribal get-together, speaking to people of the Mohawk faith they are amazing, astounding spiritual human beings, filled with a magnificent light and an arc of trying to help humanity save itself by saving and preserving themselves. Wise people.
Let's jump into this. You brought up the word prayer, and I'm very interested in pursuing that because some people have a difficult time understanding how to pray. They have sometimes a difficulty when a prayer isn't answered. Tell me, can you identify a specific time when you saw an answer to your prayer? I mean, you prayed this and...
So many miracles in my life as I went by. Not too long ago, after heart surgery, I drove to the coffee shop by my home where I sit and talk with some old friends and stuff. And this is about 4 years ago. A young couple walks up and says, this is a check for you for $25,000 to buy yourself a new car, because we heard that your son, the ER doctor, couldn't get home from Visalia after saving somebody shot 9 times. And we felt bad. And we thought, to take stress off you, we're going to get you to buy a new car. I have that car in my driveway. And it had just been after, and I have to swear to you that this is true, Rick, I was going, Lord, what do you want me to do? I'm trying the best I can. I'm doing the best I can. And I can't keep this truck going. I got to keep going and helping people. And that's when I pulled in. And they gave me the check. And I walked back to the car. And I went, that was, that was pretty amazing. Wow.
There's a surprise gift from God, right? Yeah.
It was not only from God, he was teaching me something. And the lesson is, you're never being punished, you're being protected. And the other thing is, some people filled with hate become their own karma. In other words, what happens to them is out of the anger in them. And our job is to help with the anger and not allow it to turn from grief to anger to rage to violence. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah.
Speaking to people from a heartfelt, emotional way to teach them lessons of the connection of my Christ, who lives in my heart and has since I was a little 5-year-old boy. And at points, I drifted away. But then I had work to do, and he woke me up. And I have been on that job ever since.
Yeah.
Knowing that when I serve humanity, not the left wing or the right wing, but the suffering wing, I save lives. And that's what I focus on. And I save them emotionally and physically by helping them with their issues. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's so cool. Last question about prayer. How about the prayers that aren't answered? Has there been those as well?
Never.
Seriously?
All prayers answered. The only thing I had to do was learn patience.
Uh-huh. That's great. And sometimes when a prayer is not answered, that is the answer.
Right.
That is the best thing. That's the good thing for you, not necessarily what you were praying for. Right. That's cool. So now you've already used this word a few times in our conversation so far, and I love the word, and I love that when we talked previously to this, you gave me a real indication that you come from a place of being happy.
Yes.
Almost all the time.
Yes.
I think we're going to call this episode "The Happiest Man on Earth" or something like that.
Well, we're waiting, Rick, for the Earth Mirth rebirth.
But you are so happy, and there was actually a documentary that you were a part of. I think it's a longer one, but your segment is pretty significant in that documentary, and it was plucked from a live performance at a middle school, and you talked to a couple of young folks that you brought up on stage, and I was shocked that you were able to get from them some real vulnerability on the stage. So can you describe that? And probably it'll also describe many of your interactions with kids at schools all over the country. But in that particular performance, you had a couple of people up there, and walk us through that.
Well, one of the youngsters who was in that is I was arrested for murder. And we see the impact of bullying on people from this. And it's really incumbent on us to do everything we can before the anger builds in people. That movie was a magnificent example of why human emotion can help us learn to heal the human body. So in other words, when I'm up there on stage and I say to the kids, this is how I garner their trust, I tell them an empathic story, Rick. I said, hey, boys and girls, who has a responsibility at home? And one of the little kids goes, Mr. Mike, I have a responsibility that when my dad gets drunk and beats on mom, that I take my baby brother and I hide the baby in the closet because he hurt him before and scared me. And I said, Tay, I just sat down, hon. I don't know if I'm all ready for that, but you needed to share that, right? Yes, sir. I said, why do you think you needed to tell me that right away? Everybody needs to meet a kind stranger to tell their secrets to so they can get help. If you become if you become the person for children where they can unburden, you are living a blessed and holy life.
Amen. Thank you for that. That's what a touching story. And you probably came across so many of those with your hundreds of appearances along the way. You also did. It's clear to me that your passion is with youth, young people.
Yes.
But you also did a lot of other stuff, corporate, conferences, and you've council of various and sundry government agencies. How did that kind of grow out of the youth thing, or did the youth thing grow out of the other?
They're all intertwined. People have children and they need to know how to help and support them and love them. People are grandparents and trying to help their children raise their children. And people just need empathy and sympathy, compassion, love, and connection to that greater community unity. And that's what I teach every day. In the workplace, peace, no bullying, hurt people. Pain shared is pain divided, where we help each other. Community unity. Forgive to live, live to forgive. Let it go. What people think of me is none of my business. They don't know my heart. They don't know my journey. To teach people brain axioms that will help them find laughter and as well wisdom of the Magi from this. And that is from knowing that where we live and where we come from is inside the spirit. And it's immortal. And people should know that. And know that there is immortality as no different than a beautiful caterpillar curling itself up into a cocoon and turning to goo, but moments later, it's a beautiful butterfly going through a fragrant garden. And this is why we need to help each other with death and as well with life. And as I used to tell everybody, you don't stop laughing because you grow old because you stop laughing. We had a 100-year-old Marine at the Marines Memorial in San Francisco, and I go, Tommy, what's the best part of turning 100? And he went, the absolute lack of peer pressure. It's so great to have.
I love that. Yeah.
And when you're talking to people and helping them with their lives, mostly you're helping them with grief. Remember this line by Shakespeare: always give sorrow words. Grief that does not speak whispers to the overfraught heart and bids it to break. We know that tears that do not flow will make other organs weep inside of us. We get sick if we're not grieving well. And well is grieving, and grieving is well, because I is illness, we is wellness. And
Very
so
cool.
Helping people with that human emotion stops it from turning to self-destructiveness and anger and outward anger, inward anger. So those things, teaching little kids that, what a blessing.
Yeah.
What a blessing. I've had to channel things that teach great light and laughter, and I've seen it in the eyes of children. Those children's eyes, that's the medicine for a human soul. The sound of their laughter and their eyes tracking you and cracking up with you, amazing.
Speaking of that youth and comedy, you had a portion of your credentials, your biography, was the voiceover work that you did with Star Wars and also with Sesame Street. So tell me what kind of Star Wars voice,
Rick, I love this. This is so strangely ironic. I'll tell you a story. It's sweet and funny. I was doing a Disney read for these guys, Feigenbaum and Locker, for a show on critical thinking. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this guy bursts in and says, can you do comedy voices for Sesame Street? And I went, yeah. And I go, okay. And well, I said, well, I'll come over when I'm done here. And I go, what's the deal? Do I get paid? He goes, and I was, at those days, I was making $10,000 a year as a juvenile hall correctional officer, right? And all of a sudden he says, I'll pay you $1,500. I said, la, 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 la.
I'm in.
I'm in. Can't get better. Hey, boy, you're going to have a lot of fun. And when I'm done, I'm going to have 7 or 8 places to get money for. So when you're having fun, when the joy comes to you, you can create anything. Animation, music, theater, art, dance, all these things, they play into it. And to let people explore with that, this is what's going to save. The arts unite, Rick. The arts unite. And they're part of a holiness in our society. They dedicate themselves to, as the Jesuits would say, ad majorem Dei gloriam, all for the greater glory of God.
You did a bit of when we were on the phone in our kind of our pre get together, you did a sequence of Star Wars-ish characters.
Yes, the force is strong within you, Rick. So, can you imagine being 70 years old and still being able to do that? That's how you know there's a God. You still childlike stupidity in you, you know. As my father would say, you'd have to take a self-improvement course to become an idiot. I don't want to say he's dumb, but a single thought in his brain would die of loneliness. Anyway. My pop was one of those World War II guys. I loved him. I miss him every day. Stephen Ambrose said, when it came to World War II, we sent our best. They did their best, and the world was saved from evil. And I say all the time to people what Ike Eisenhower, the leader, said about finding the nature of loneliness and anger and hostility and hate and what it does to the human spirit. Eisenhower said, when my young men landed here at Normandy, I don't know whether those young men and my uncles were amongst them, right? I don't know if those young men would have ever known what they were fighting for when we got here. But when they see these concentration camps and the sickness that's here, they know absolutely what they've been fighting against. That's leadership.
Yeah.
The wisdom of heartfelt, brilliant, Kansas, all-American flag, good human, like Eisenhower, who had, strong moral turpitude. And it's hard when we judge our leaders. We have to be careful. By the way, Rick, do you know the difference between a dandelion and a rose?
Oh, well, what?
Judgment.
All right. So in your, I just want to dig a little deeper on the with your connection with George Lucas. So
Sure.
you did this, you did the Star Wars stuff, but then that kind of led into something, or I think it led into something called Edutopia.
Yes, working with George's Educational Foundation, I did a wonderful film on there, and it is called Lessons from the Heart, and it's about 10 minutes long, but it's showing people how you talk to kids emotionally and use their wisdom to share and give out to others, and it's remarkable stuff.
The good you do will come back to you. And no matter what we teach your brains, love is more important than knowledge.
I narrated a bunch of films there for Ken Ellis and George, and I loved them. And George is a visionary and a brilliant leader in education and technology and its impact on us. And that's why he has a wonderful advisor named Dr. Robinson, who spoke on education reform, and we have to do what we can to start realizing the technology's impact on us has to remain for us. If we have high tech, we must have high spirituality.
You were born a Catholic, but then you had a rebirth, a kind of reborn scenario later on in life. What brought that about, and how did that happen for you?
Well, I became charismatic in the sense that I believe strongly in scripture and its wisdom. I also believe strongly in helping human beings by empathic, intuitive love, compassion, and connection. And you believe that you become the channel of the Holy Spirit in that loving way that Christ had asked us to. So we become the hands and feet of Christ here. And you just feel it. And when I'm on stage speaking and helping people, I feel an energy from spiritual realms that help me sustain my words, my wisdom, and I have an incredible memory for somebody in their 70s, and I'm just grateful for it.
Yeah. For those, for people who, I know that probably in most of your live performances, it's not really Christian based, although.
Much of it.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I love speaking to all crowds, but you have to learn to speak to the secular and make them realize that you can shift their lives, help them just by coming closer to believing in kindness, compassion, love, and connection. If I can't proselytize, and that's fine, I can then become the example. Mm-hmm. And that's all you want. And you want to make sure you maintain the moral turpitude of a person who's helping to lead. And, that's important right now. Readers are leaders and leaders are readers. And it's important for us to have people who understand humanity like Charles Dickens.
Mm-hmm. Your charity work, you've done tons of things that are helping people all the time, raising funds, participating in charitable organizations, one of which is actually the Susan Williams Foundation, right?
Susan Williams has
Robin's
the
wife.
American Brain Association, and they are working on Lewy body dementia biomarkers and ways to find a vaccine and a cure for preemptively helping people with brain disease. And the more we find those beginnings in the biomarkers, the easier it is to kind of help with research to go find these for ALS, for Lewy body dementia, Alzheimer's, all these things. We need to be looking at the whole brain and figuring out how we can help each other. That's what neuroscience is all about. Robin loved this stuff, and he would have loved the Happy movie because it was like that. But my charitable work and doing all that stuff is always part of the agenda to live a happy life of humble service.
We talked about the word happy. You were in a documentary called Happy. You've mentioned you're happy. I called you the happiest man in the world.
It is true.
I want to know, is there a secret is there a secret to being happy? Is there something you can share with us that we can take with us and help us be happy?
I was sitting with a bunch of young, really brilliant young 3 and 4 tour guys who've come back and returned, and we're having a little group meeting with them at the VA in Yountville, and they're kind young men and good young men, and they've served well, nobly, and with incredible integrity, and they're coming home from the war wounded. And I looked at them and I said, "Hey, look up here, you guys. There is a river of gladness that runs through the city of the Most Holy. He is within it, and it will not fall. He'll save it at the break of day. Nations and kingdoms will totter. Despots and tyrants will fall. But when he lifts his voice, the earth melts away. Come and look at all the desolation that he's put forth on earth. But he ends wars to the ends of the earth. He shatters the bow. He splinters the spear. He burns the shield with fire. Be still and know that I am God. The Lord of all the host of angels is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Of whom should we fear?" And so when you say that in front of these troops, that ain't me. That ain't me. I go, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, Rodney Dangerfield. Whoa, where did that come from? I don't get more respect, even for myself. So, can I tell you about consciousness? Here it is.
Please.
Mo walks up to Curly and goes, "What are you doing?" And Curly goes, "I'm thinking, but nothing's happening." That's consciousness. That's when you're in the total state of grace, the total state of serenity, the total state of peace. And you go, yeah, Lord, I feel like I'm in Eden right now. And I do feel like I'm in heaven. I got a 55-inch flat screen, a foam bed, and family that loves me. And a grandson who comes in here and goes, I was crying one day because this young kid was graduating from Annapolis who had struggled all of his life. And I was weeping as he was telling me this. And my grandson throws the door open, Rick, and he goes, "What are you crying about now, Grandpa?" "Well, why don't you turn on Fireman Sam? And that's a good show about firemen. We'll laugh." What else do I need?
Yeah.
That's not my timing. That's God's timing. He's like,
there you go.
Cheer up, pal.
Well, you know, I think we could go on here. I just have been thrilled having this opportunity to talk with you and to get your insights and your humor. But I just want to, as we kind of close this down, is to find out if there's anything that we can do to support you. Is there anything that you've got going that we can engage with you? Or are you just so retired you don't want to hear from us?
No, what I want to do is, after I have to have my knee surgery, I got to get both knees replaced. As that becomes better, I'll be able to travel more, but I got to get that done. And I think that when that begins, I'd come anywhere to help people raise funds just by speaking and laughing and talking. And I can do that because I started out my career doing the healing power of laughter and play conferences all over America for AIDS patients and cancer patients and doctors. It was amazing. I had Norman Cousins. So for me, any support you give, I have a foundation called the Heartland Media Foundation. People can donate there so I can continue to do my bullying work, even if it's on Zoom.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you, and I hope our connection might exist beyond today.
I want to close out and give you a gift, my brother, because you're such a good man. Please tell Clem I feel the same of he. Okay. There's a cancer camp called St. Dorothy's Rest, run by the Anglican Church. It's wonderful. And I've been going up there, and there's a poem there, and I'm going to give it to you. "Oh, the winds of God are blowing, so keep your sails unfurled, and the winds of God will take you to the safe harbors of the world, forever full of power to take you where you will, forever full of grace if there are sails to fill. So take the helm, be master. Unfurl your sail, your part, and the winds of God will take you to the safe harbors of your heart."
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You too, sir. Take care of yourself.
Day.